Hello, my name is Judy, and I'm your foster mom. And I've had a really good time since I started being on YouTube. I didn't know it was going to be so much fun. I've had people contact me. I even had one of my foster children from the past contact me. His name is Brian. I'll talk about him later. So it's been really fun, and I just appreciate all of you. I was going to talk a little bit today about when I got licensed. Now, when I got licensed to do this work, I had already been doing it volunteering-wise, and so I think they were a little generous with me, and they did have to hurry me through a bit because they had a boy in line, and they wanted to kind of get me through so they could have him come live with me. So I think that there were some corners cut a bit. But I ended up in the office of the head of youth corrections for Salt Lake City. Now, I began taking foster children from youth corrections. These were children who had already been in trouble with the law and already had some behavioral or attachment problems. And so I think they kind of hurried me through because they had a boy ready for me. But I remember sitting in the office of this very young, good-looking, handsome, he was years younger than me, very intelligent young man. And he was sitting at his office, and I was nervous. I had been a homemaker for years, and I didn't know what he had in store for me. And so I'm all nervous, and he's sitting at his desk with his back to me. And all of a sudden, because you know those, I was going to tell you, the offices, these people are not swanky. There are no gorgeous carpets, and you know, they're pretty lean setups. So anyway, I'm sitting in this very lean office, and his back is to me. I'm nervous, and all of a sudden he switches his chair around, and he said, "Are you Judi Thomas?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, do you believe that people can change?" And I froze, because you know what you've read, you know what you've heard people say. I could hear what my religious leader said, what my mother said, what my neighbor said. I had all of these things just going around in my head like firecrackers, and I had to formulate my own answer to this question. And I sat there quietly and he said, "Do you believe people can change?" And I said, "Well, you know, my mother says, and then my bishop says, and no, that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking what you think. Can people change?" Yes, I do believe people can change. Formulating my own answer to that question was a giant step, I think, in working with children who are unattached, who come from problem homes. That was, yes, people can change, which means I can change, which means the children that come can change. It was a very eye-opening, light, turning on kind of a day for me. And so I've tried to keep that in mind as I went working with the kids. Okay, I was going to tell you a little bit. One of the things I would like to do is teach I'd like to teach the 4 steps of moral development as we go through. And of course, the first step is obedience. I'm not going to do it today, but I do want to give you an example of how that works when I'm thinking about Brian. Brian came to me. He was old enough to go get a job. So Brian goes out and gets his first job, and he's a good worker. He's working good and everything. And I had a rule in the house that if you get a job, that your first check, you can blow it on whatever you want. So he did. He took his first check and he blew it. And he just had a great time with it. Well, when the second check comes around, we have to sit down and have the budgeting talk. Now, learning obedience when you're under 7, 8 years old, you can be told what to do. This is what you do with your money. And my children obeyed me. I'd say, you pay this, and you pay this, and you keep the rest, and you save this. And they would obey me because they were in the age range that you can tell children what to do. They love you, they believe you. But when you get into be a teenager, you cannot just tell them what to do. Obedience doesn't work that way. It's a lot more long-suffering process. So we sit down and I said, now, our family has a rule. When you get a check, a third of it goes for what you have to pay. A third of it goes for what you want to pay. And a third of it goes into savings. Now that's our family rule. So let's sit down and write the things you have to pay. Things you have to pay would be like any school fees or book fees or, that type of thing. Maybe we put gifts, like maybe it's your mother's birthday or something you want to get her something. That would be in the have to department. And then on the other side, what do you want? That would be like, do you need a new pair of shoes? Do you need a new pair of pants? Or, And then there's the savings that's just set aside. So we sat down and we budgeted. I budgeted with Brian for like an hour. And at that particular time, they had this designer jean craze going on. There was some pants called Carl Kanai. I can't remember all the names, but they were very expensive. And I used to let my own children have one pair so they could feel dressed up, but they didn't have a wardrobe of them. And Brian says, well, I'm going to go buy me some of those. Well, you have enough to buy you a pair. No, I'm going to go buy me 4 or 5 pair. And I'm going to buy me some new shirts. I'm going to buy some. Well, no, you can't do that just yet. Okay, now this is what we're going to do. You have a third of it here, and then you have this third, and then you save a third, Well, I'm not going to do it, and he storms all around the house. So he was just ranting and raving and called me a big effing B, and, But to extinguish a behavior is to ignore it in psychology. So I didn't yell back at him. I just sat here with my little notebook and my pen, and I said, yes, but that's not what we do. What we do with our money is we have a third of it for this and a third of it for that. That is what we do. And I just reiterated the rule over and over again. 4 hours later, this young man budgeted his money. 4 hours later, he agreed to what we decided to do. And let me tell you, this boy is a wonderful, wonderful human being. He's raised 2 beautiful children. He's a wonderful dad. So I think that teaching obedience in a different time of life is more difficult. Takes a lot more patience. It takes a lot more time, but it can be done. And that's what I want to teach along this tape eventually. The 4 steps of moral development and how to do it, and how we go about teaching it as they get older. Thank you for watching today. It's been great. I'll have something for you again next week. I appreciate you. Bye.